3 seconds was all it took for Diane Preston to decide Malcolm Reed didn't belong in the first-class lounge. His custom suit and quiet dignity meant nothing. All she saw was his skin. "Security," she whispered, eyes narrowing with practiced suspicion. What she couldn't see was the empire Nathaniel had built from nothing and the billions at his command. As security escorted him away, passengers averted their eyes, all except young Jamal, who recognized the tech icon immediately. Nathaniel's face betrayed nothing as he made one call. "Protocol Raven, begin observation mode." In those words, Regalis Airways' fate was sealed. They thought they were removing an unwelcome passenger. Instead, they had ignited a war against a man who had spent his life preparing for this moment, when discrimination would finally meet its match in power, strategy, and unstoppable justice. The sleek black Bentley pulled up to the departures terminal of Washington National Airport with barely a sound. As the chauffeur stepped out to open the rear passenger door, Malcolm Reed gathered his leather portfolio and adjusted his platinum cufflinks, a gift to himself when he closed his first billion-dollar deal. "Will you be needing any assistance with your luggage, Mr. Cole?" the chauffeur asked, his posture perfectly straight. Nathaniel shook his head. "Just the carry-on, James. I travel light these days." He stepped onto the curb, cutting an impressive figure in his custom-tailored Tom Ford suit that accentuated his athletic build. At 42, Nathaniel carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who knew exactly who he was and what he was worth. "Very good, sir. Will you need pickup upon your return?" "I'll send the details once I land in San Francisco." Nathaniel took the handle of his sleek carry-on luggage. "And James, take the rest of the day off." "That's an order," the chauffeur smiled. "Thank you, sir." As Nathaniel entered the terminal, he felt the familiar shift in energy that always happened when he walked into spaces not historically designed for men who looked like him. Subtle double takes from travelers scrolling through their phones. A security guard who straightened up just a bit more when Nathaniel passed. A white woman who clutched her purse slightly tighter. Nathaniel noticed it all but kept his expression neutral. These moments were so common, they had become white noise. In the symphony of his life, annoying but predictable, he'd learned long ago that reacting only gave others power over his peace. The first-class check-in line was empty, and Nathaniel approached the counter where two gate agents were chatting. The younger woman, whose name tag read Maya Torres, smiled automatically. But the older agent, Diane Preston, according to her badge, paused mid-sentence and gave Nathaniel a long, assessing look. "Good morning," Nathaniel said, sliding his ID and platinum frequent flyer card across the counter. "Orion Air to San Francisco, 11:30 departure." Sandra took his documents with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And how are you?" "Today, sir?" The pause before "sir" was subtle but unmistakable. "I'm well, thank you." Nathaniel maintained eye contact, his voice measured and calm. Sandra tapped at her keyboard with unnecessary force. "Business or pleasure today?" "Business, I'm sure." She glanced at his ID, then back at him, as if confirming the photo matched. "Cole. Malcolm Reed." "That's correct." Sandra leaned toward Maya Torres and whispered something. Maya Torres's eyes widened slightly before she composed herself. Nathaniel caught fragments. "That startup guy, and probably just lucked into some money." Nathaniel had built a multi-billion AI empire from nothing, but he'd grown accustomed to being diminished as that startup guy. "Your boarding pass, Mr. Cole," Sandra said, handing him the document with barely concealed reluctance. First-class passengers may proceed to the premium security lane in the first-class lounge. Boarding begins at 10:45. Thank you. Nathaniel collected his documents, noting how Sandra's eyes followed him as he walked away. The TSA security process was uneventful, though Nathaniel was randomly selected for additional screening, a statistically improbable event that happened nearly every time he flew. He submitted to the extra pat-down without comment, keeping his face neutral despite the indignity. 20 minutes later, Nathaniel approached the entrance to the Orion Air first-class lounge. A different agent stood at the podium, a young white man with blonde hair who brightened when he saw Nathaniel approaching. "Good morning, sir. May I see your boarding pass and ID?" Nathaniel had just reached for his documents when Sandra suddenly appeared behind the podium, slightly out of breath, as if she'd hurried to intercept him. "I'll handle this one, Ryan," she said, dismissing the younger agent with a curt nod. Ryan looked confused but stepped aside. Nathaniel handed over his boarding pass and ID again. Sandra examined them with exaggerated scrutiny, turning the boarding pass over as if searching for some flaw, some reason to deny him. "Is there a problem?" Nathaniel asked quietly. "Just doing my job, sir." The way she emphasized "sir" made it sound like an insult. "This first-class ticket seems unusual." Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" "Well, these are very expensive seats." Sandra's eyes narrowed. "And we need to be sure that all passengers are in their proper place." Several travelers in the vicinity slowed their pace, sensing the tension. Nathaniel was acutely aware of the eyes on him, the silent judgment, the assumptions being made. "I assure you my ticket is valid," Nathaniel said, his voice still calm but with a new edge of steel beneath it. Sandra scanned his boarding pass, frowning at the computer screen. "This ticket, it's probably someone else's." She looked up at him. "Did you find this boarding pass, sir? Or maybe it was purchased for you by an employer." The implication hung in the air, heavy and offensive. A few feet away, an older white man in a golf shirt and khakis snorted derisively. "Maybe he's lost," the man said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Coach is that way." He pointed toward the main terminal. Sandra didn't correct the man or defend her passenger. Instead, she seemed emboldened by the comment, standing straighter. "I'm going to need additional verification," she said. "This doesn't seem right." Nathaniel carefully extracted his wallet and removed a black American Express Centurion card. The credit card so exclusive most people had only heard rumors of its existence. "Will this help verify my identity?" he asked, his voice perfectly level. Sandra's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Anyone could have that. I'm going to need to call security." She picked up a phone, turning her back to Nathaniel as she dialed. Nathaniel didn't protest. He'd been here before, too many times to count. Fighting would only escalate the situation, turning him into the angry black man narrative that would surely follow. Instead, he stepped to the side and waited, his posture perfect, his expression unreadable. Within minutes, a security supervisor appeared, a tall, broad-shouldered man with salt and pepper hair, moving with the economy of motion that suggested military training. His nameplate read Marcus Hale. "What seems to be the problem here?" Grant asked, his voice gruff but professional. "This gentleman is attempting to access the first-class lounge with what I believe may be fraudulent documentation," Sandra said, emphasizing gentleman with the same disdainful tone she'd used for sir. Marcus Hale turned to Nathaniel, his eyes registering a brief flash of recognition before his professional mask returned. "Sir, may I see your ID and boarding pass?" Nathaniel handed them over without comment. Grant examined them carefully, then looked at Sandra. "Ms. McKee, everything appears to be in order," he said. "Mr. Cole's documentation is valid." Sandra's face tightened. "But he doesn't." She caught herself. "I mean, it seems suspicious." "The system flagged nothing," Grant interrupted firmly. "I see no alerts on this passenger. I want him removed from the lounge area," Sandra insisted, "just to be safe. We can't be too careful these days." Grant hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, but bound by protocol. "Sir, I apologize, but would you mind coming with me while we sort this out? It's just procedure." Nathaniel nodded once. "Of course." As Victor began to escort him away, Nathaniel noticed a young black man in an Orion Air intern uniform watching the scene with wide, horrified eyes. The young man's name tag read Jamal, and he was frantically typing something on his phone. Nathaniel followed Marcus Hale toward the security office, maintaining his dignity with every step. Once they were out of earshot of the lounge, he removed his phone from his pocket and made a call. "This is Cole," he said quietly. "Protocol Raven, full spectrum engagement, begin observation mode." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket just as Marcus Hale opened the door to the security office. "Mr. Cole, It's... All right, Mr. Grant," Nathaniel said. "I understand you're doing your job." Victor looked pained. "For what it's worth, sir, I recognize who you are. This shouldn't be happening." Nathaniel merely nodded. He'd been preparing for moments like this his entire life. This wasn't the first time, and sadly it wouldn't be the last. But unlike the previous incidents, this time would have consequences. Meanwhile, in the terminal, young Andre Walker was texting frantically to his friend in the IT department. "Dude, they just messed with Malcolm Reed." The Malcolm Reed. The man basically invented half the systems running this airport. We are so screwed. The IT break room was typically quiet at this hour, but Terrell Morgan nearly spit out his coffee. When he read Jamal's text, he immediately called his friend. "Are you serious right now?" Derek demanded. "Malcolm Reed, the founder of Cole Dynamics?" "Dead serious." Jamal hissed into his phone, ducking behind a column to avoid being seen by his supervisor. Diane Preston and security just escorted him away like he was some kind of criminal, all because he was trying to enter the first-class lounge. "Do you realize who that man is?" Derek's voice rose in panic. "His AI systems run half the infrastructure in every major airport in America. Cold dynamic security protocols are used by the Pentagon, for God's sake." "I know exactly who he is," Jamal replied. "My senior project at Howard was based on his early algorithms. He's a legend, man. And they just treated him like he stole something." As Jamal and Derek processed the gravity of what they'd witnessed, their conversation echoed the story of a man whose name had become synonymous with innovation and excellence. A story that began in much humbler circumstances. 28 years earlier, 8-year-old Nathaniel sat alone on the steps of Greenwood Foster Home, clutching a worn notebook filled with numbers and diagrams beyond the comprehension of most adults. His social worker, Miss Patterson, sat beside him, her hand gentle on his shoulder. "Your aunt's not coming today, Nathaniel," she said softly. "I'm so sorry." Nathaniel nodded, unsurprised. His aunt, his only living relative after his parents, death in a car accident 2 years prior, had made promises before. She rarely kept them. "It's okay," he said, continuing to scribble equations in his notebook. I need to finish this anyway. Miss Patterson peered at his work. What are you working on? It's a system, he explained, his small face serious beyond his years, to predict patterns. If you can predict patterns, you can prepare for what happens next. Miss Patterson's heart broke a little. Of course, this brilliant child who had lost everything at 6 years old would be obsessed with predicting the future, with preventing the next disaster before it struck. You're a special kid, Nathaniel, she said. Someday everyone's going to know it. By 14, Nathaniel had moved through 4 foster homes, enduring racial bullying, jealousy over his intelligence, and the constant struggle of being the only black child in predominantly white schools and neighborhoods. He'd learned to keep his head down, to observe, to speak only when necessary. At Marshall High School, math teacher Mr. Winters recognized something extraordinary in the quiet teenager who completed calculus problems while his classmates struggled with basic algebra. You're wasting your time here, Mr. Winters told him after class one day. You need to be challenged, Nathaniel shrugged. I challenge myself. With what? Hesitantly, Nathaniel pulled out his latest notebook. He'd filled dozens by now and showed Mr. Winters the code he'd been developing. Mr. Winters stared at the pages, his expression shifting from curiosity to astonishment. This is graduate-level work. What exactly are you building? A predictive model for financial markets? Nathaniel said quietly. It's just a hobby. A hobby? Mr. Winters looked at him in disbelief. Nathaniel, this is extraordinary. For the first time in years, Nathaniel allowed himself a small smile. By 17, Nathaniel was working 3 jobs: mornings at a coffee shop before school, evenings at the library, and weekends washing dishes at a local restaurant. Every penny went toward the refurbished computer parts he'd assembled in his tiny bedroom at his latest foster home. You're gonna burn yourself out, kid, his foster father Jim warned him one night, finding Nathaniel still awake at 3 a.m., coding by the glow of his monitor. I'm fine, Nathaniel insisted, not looking away from the screen. What's so important that it can't wait until morning? Nathaniel hesitated. Jim had been decent to him, not warm, not a father figure, but not cruel either. I'm finishing my app. The scholarship applications for MIT are due next week, and I need this to work. Jim squinted at the screen. What's it do? It analyzes historical weather patterns and crop yields to predict food shortages before they happen, Nathaniel explained. It could give aid organizations months of advance warning. Jim stared at him for a long moment. You're something else, you know that? He shook his head in wonder. Get some sleep, Nathaniel. Even brilliant minds need rest. For once, Nathaniel took advice. He got 3 hours of sleep before his morning shift. When he returned home that afternoon, Jim was waiting with an envelope. This came for you. Express mail. Nathaniel opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a letter offering him a full scholarship to MIT. His foster parents threw him a small party that weekend, the first celebration anyone had ever held in his honor. It should have been the beginning of a perfect success story. It wasn't. 2 years later, 19-year-old Nathaniel sat in a sterile conference room in downtown Boston, facing 3 white men in expensive suits who smiled too much. Your algorithm is impressive, Mr. Cole, said Richard Ellison, the silver-haired venture capitalist at the center. Rough around the edges, but we see potential. Thank you, Nathaniel replied. maintaining eye contact despite his discomfort. He'd spent 2 years refining his predictive food shortage system into something that could save thousands of lives. "We're prepared to offer you $50,000 for the IP," said another man, Connor Blake, according to the business card on the table. Nathaniel frowned. "The projected value is in the millions." Winston laughed as if Nathaniel had told a charming joke that's very optimistic. "Look, we're taking all the risk here. You're a student with an unproven concept. A concept I built and tested myself," Nathaniel countered. "It works. The World Food Program has already expressed interest." "Such passion," Winston said condescendingly. "But you need to understand how business works. We have the connections, the infrastructure. You want to strip the humanitarian application and sell it to hedge funds," Nathaniel interrupted, finally understanding. "That's not what it's for." The third man, Jonathan Price, sighed impatiently. "Mr. Cole, let's be practical. You're a sophomore from nowhere with no family connections, no wealth behind you. This offer is generous." Nathaniel stood up. "Thank you for your time, gentlemen." "Don't be foolish," Winston warned. "You turn this down, we'll develop something similar in-house. You'll get nothing." "I'll take my chances," Nathaniel collected his prototype and left. 6 months later, Winston's firm launched a derivative of Nathaniel's system, having reverse-engineered aspects of it from the demonstration. They made millions. Nathaniel received nothing, not even credit. It was the first betrayal, but not the last. It taught him a crucial lesson. In the world of business, power was everything, and he had none. Yet. While Jamal continued his frantic text exchange with Derek, similar conversations were happening across the airport as word spread rapidly among the staff. The Malcolm Reed was being detained. In the security office, Marcus Hale was visibly uncomfortable as he went through the motions of checking Nathaniel's documentation again. "I apologize for the inconvenience, Mr. Cole," he said formally. "This appears to be a misunderstanding." Nathaniel remained calm. "Is it, though?" Victor's eyes met his briefly before looking away. "Sir?" "A misunderstanding implies unintentional error," Nathaniel said. "This felt quite intentional." Victor didn't respond immediately. After 20 years in airport security following his military service, he'd seen patterns emerge. He'd witnessed the random selections that weren't random at all. He'd observed the extra scrutiny applied to certain passengers, particularly successful-looking black men who dared to occupy first-class spaces. "I can't comment on that, sir," Victor finally said. "You don't need to," Nathaniel replied. "Your silence speaks volumes." Victor cleared his throat. "You're free to go, Mr. Cole. I'll personally escort you back to the lounge." "That won't be necessary. I believe my flight is boarding soon anyway." As Nathaniel left the security office, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number. "Mr. Cole, this is Andre Walker, Regalis intern. What happened to you?" "Was wrong. Many of us here respect you greatly." Nathaniel paused, considering. Then he typed back, "Stay observant. Truth reveals itself to the patient." Outside the terminal, in a sleek black SUV with tinted windows, a woman watched the airport entrance with laser focus. Selena Grant had been head of global security for Cole Dynamics for 5 years. Ever since Nathaniel had personally recruited her away from her senior position at the CIA. At 45, with her close-cropped hair and perpetually alert eyes, Leah carried herself with the quiet assurance of someone who had seen the worst of humanity and knew how to counter it. Her phone rang. "Okoro," she answered crisply. "It's me," came Nathaniel's voice. Protocol Raven is active. Understood. Assets in place. Moving into position now. I'm boarding shortly. Leah nodded, though Nathaniel couldn't see her. Initial intel on Regalis is concerning. Heavy ties to offshore accounts, particularly in the Cayman Islands and Switzerland. Their CEO, Gregory Langston, plays golf with half the Senate Transportation Committee. Vulnerabilities? Numerous, Leah replied, bringing up a secured tablet. Their cybersecurity is outdated. Internal culture is toxic. 18 sexual harassment settlements in the last 5 years, all buried. And their flight safety record is maintained through aggressive legal suppression of incidents. Perfect, Nathaniel said, his voice revealing nothing of what he was thinking. They're rotten from the inside. What's the play here, Nathaniel? Leah asked, dropping formality as she often did when they were strategizing. There was a pause before Nathaniel answered. They humiliated me because they thought I was powerless, because they saw my skin and made assumptions. This isn't about revenge, Leah. No, it's about accountability. It's about consequences. These systems persist because they're never challenged by someone with the resources to fight back. Leah smiled grimly. And you have resources? More than they can imagine, Nathaniel. Confirmed. Prepare full-spectrum engagement. I want every skeleton in every Regalis closet exposed. And Diane Preston? Leah asked. Her too. No one is collateral damage in this. Everyone who participates in these systems makes a choice. Meanwhile, across town at the Orion Air corporate headquarters, CEO Gregory Langston was enjoying a whiskey in his office after returning from a round of golf with Senator Thomas Green, chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee. Great news, Martin, he told his CFO, Felix Turner. The proposed safety regulations will be indefinitely delayed for further study. Martin raised his eyebrows. That saves us what, $30 million in upgrades? At least, Charles confirmed, swirling his drink. Tom's a good friend. He understands how business works. The intercom on his desk buzzed. Mr. Whitmore, there's a situation developing at National Airport involving a high-profile passenger. PR thinks you should be briefed. Charles sighed dramatically. Can't PR handle anything themselves these days? Fine, put them through. A nervous voice came on the line. Sir, a passenger named Malcolm Reed was apparently denied access to our first-class lounge, despite having valid documentation. It's already generating social media attention. Charles frowned. Malcolm Reed? Why do I know that name? He's the founder and CEO of Coal Dynamics. The PR representative explained. The AI firm? Oh, right. The tech guy. African-American fellow? Yes, sir. Charles waved dismissively, though no one could see him. Standard response, then. Regalis. Airways is committed to diversity and inclusion, blah, blah, blah. Isolated incident, not reflective of our values. You know the drill. Sir, I think this might require more attention. Mr. Cole is extremely influential and… Look, Charles interrupted, just blame it on the employee and move on. We've handled these situations before. No one has the attention span for outrage anymore. It'll be forgotten by tomorrow. Yes, sir, the PR rep said dubiously. After hanging up, Charles turned to Martin. You see what I have to deal with? Everyone panics over nothing these days. Martin looked less certain. Coal Dynamics? Aren't they the ones who developed the new air traffic control AI system? Probably, Charles shrugged. They're all the same, these tech companies. Too much money, too little real-world experience. Don't worry about it. Back at the airport, Maya Torres approached Sandra in the staff break room. her expression troubled. "Sandra, what happened with that passenger was wrong," she said quietly. Sandra looked up from her coffee, eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" That man had every right to be in the lounge. His documentation was valid. You know it was. "I was following protocol," Sandra said defensively. "He seemed suspicious." "How?" Maya Torres challenged. "Because he was black? He was better dressed than half the passengers in first class." Sandra's face hardened. Men like that always play the victim, always looking for special treatment. He wasn't. Asking for special treatment, Maya Torres argued. He was asking for the same treatment anyone else would get. "You're too young to understand," Sandra dismissed her. "I've been doing this job for 20 years. I know trouble when I see it." Maya Torres stared at her in disbelief. "That's exactly the problem, isn't it? You see trouble when there isn't any." She turned to leave, then paused. "You know who that was, right? Malcolm Reed. His company is worth billions." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Sandra's face. "The name means nothing to me." "Maybe it should," Maya Torres replied, "because I guarantee it means something to our executives." As Nathaniel's flight prepared for boarding, he received another message from Leah. "Phase 1 ready, on your command." Nathaniel looked out the window at the Orion airplane waiting on the tarmac, its corporate logo gleaming in the morning. Sunday. Then he typed back a simple response. "Begin." Then we exposed them piece by piece. As Malcolm Reed's flight touched down in San Francisco, his phone buzzed with notifications. The incident at Washington National had already made its way online, with shaky cell phone footage showing his interaction with Diane Preston and his subsequent escort away from the first-class lounge. "This is what happens when you chalk a fly while black," read one trending post accompanied by the video. Another showed a side-by-side comparison of Diane Preston's smiling professional headshot next to a still image of her confronting Nathaniel. By the time he stepped into his waiting car, major news outlets had picked up the story. "Breaking news today," announced a CNN anchor, her expression grave. Tech billionaire and AI pioneer Malcolm Reed was allegedly denied access to a first-class airport lounge, despite having valid documentation. Orion Air is facing accusations of racial profiling following the incident, which was captured on video by multiple witnesses. Nathaniel watched the coverage impassively as his driver navigated through San Francisco traffic. His phone rang. Selena Grant. "The news cycle has it," she informed him. "Social media response is divided but trending in your favor. Regalis' PR team is scrambling. And our other initiatives? Proceeding as planned. First digital insertion complete. We're monitoring systems now." Nathaniel nodded, though Leah couldn't see him. "Good. Keep me updated." Within hours, Orion Air released an official statement, plastered across their social media accounts and sent to major news outlets. Orion Air is deeply committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion at all levels of our operation. The incident involving Mr. Cole appears to be an isolated case of a rogue employee not following our established protocols. We are investigating the matter fully and will take appropriate action. We extend our sincere apologies to Mr. Cole and all our valued customers. At Regalis headquarters, Gregory Langston scanned the statement with disinterest before tossing the tablet aside. "There. Problem solved," he declared to his crisis management team assembled in his office. "Now can we, please focus on actual business?" Teresa Williams, Regalis' chief communications officer, pressed her lips together in concern. Sir, I don't think this will be sufficient. The optics are extremely bad, and Mr. Cole is highly influential in tech circles. Charles rolled his eyes. It's a PR hiccup, Teresa, not the end of the world. Blame the employee, make vague promises about doing better, and move on. That's how these things work. Sir, Teresa tried again. I think we should reach out to Mr. Cole directly, offer a personal apology, perhaps some form of... For what? Charles interrupted, his voice rising. For a momentary inconvenience. He still made his flight, didn't he? Besides, this isn't the first time we've dealt with passengers who claim discrimination. They usually settle quietly once legal dangles the right amount in front of them. Teresa exchanged concerned glances with Felix Turner, the CFO, who had remained silent throughout the meeting. Martin cleared his throat. Perhaps we should at least consider, Charles announced, standing abruptly. I have a charity dinner to attend. Handle this however you need to, but keep it contained and inexpensive. As the executives filed out, Teresa hung back. Martin, I'm worried. This feels different. Martin nodded slightly. I know, but you know Charles. Once his mind is made up, he trailed off, glancing at his phone as it vibrated with an incoming call. I have to take this. It's IT security. At Washington National Airport, Diane Preston strutted through the employee lounge, basking in attention from colleagues who had seen the news. I was just doing my job, she told a group of fellow gate agents. Protecting the integrity of our premium spaces, you never know these days. Maya Torres stood nearby, arms crossed. That's not what happened and you know it. Sandra's smile faltered. Excuse me? You targeted him specifically. You left your post to intercept him at the lounge. The room fell silent as other employees watched the confrontation unfold. Sandra's face hardened. You need to be careful, Maya Torres. Making false accusations against a senior colleague could impact your future here. Before Maya Torres could respond, their supervisor entered the break room. Sandra, I need to see you in my office immediately. Sandra's smug expression vanished. What's this about, Jeff? Now, Sandra. His tone left no room for argument. As Sandra followed him out, her phone pinged with a notification. It was from Regalis HR. All employee social media accounts are now subject to review as part of our updated social media policy. Please refrain from commenting on recent events involving Orion Air. Meanwhile, travelers across the country were experiencing unexplained glitches in the Orion Air booking system. Flights disappeared from the scheduling database only to reappear hours later. Premium customers found their reservations downgraded to economy without explanation. Payment systems declined valid credit cards while occasionally processing the same transaction multiple times. At Regalis IT headquarters in Dallas, systems administrators worked frantically to identify the source of the disruptions. It's like the system is fighting itself, explained the lead IT engineer to his increasingly frustrated director. We patch one issue and 3 more appear. I've never seen anything like it. Could it be a hack? Asked the director. Maybe, but there's no obvious point of entry. Our security protocols are all registering as intact. The engineer pushed back from his desk in frustration. The weird thing is, it's almost like the disruptions are targeted. What do you mean? The glitches seem to be affecting our most profitable routes and highest value customers. It's too specific to be random. Back in San Francisco, Nathaniel sat in his hotel suite, watching real-time data flow across multiple screens. Leah's voice came through the secure video connection. Operation Mirror is active, she reported. Our people have identified multiple vulnerabilities in Regalus's executive communications. We're gathering intelligence on Whitmore and his inner circle, and our digital insertion, performing as designed, subtle enough to seem like system errors, but impactful enough to hurt. Their bottom line, Nathaniel nodded approvingly. What about our human assets? The airport employee, Andre Walker, has been surprisingly helpful. He's provided access to internal communications channels, and we've identified other potential allies within Regalus who seem unhappy with the current leadership. Good. What? Did you find on Diane Preston? Leah's expression turned grimmer. She's a piece of work. Multiple passenger complaints over the years, all buried by management. She has a pattern of targeting passengers of color, particularly in premium cabins. AHR has a file on her, but they've taken no substantive action. And Marcus Hale, former Air Force, 20 years in airport security. By all accounts, a decent man in a difficult position. Ethical, but constrained by the system. Nathaniel considered this. Reach out to him, quietly. I want to know where he stands. As this conversation was taking place, Jamal was working his shift at the airport, feeling a mix of anxiety and purpose. His phone buzzed with a text from Derek in IT. Something weird is happening in our systems. Boss is panicking. Does this have anything to do with what happened yesterday? Jamal checked to make sure no one was watching before replying. Maybe. Keep me posted. Several terminals away, Marcus Hale was reviewing security camera footage from the previous day, focusing on Nathaniel's interaction with Sandra. He rewound and replayed the scene several times, his frown deepening. It was worse than he remembered. Sandra's body language, her clear disdain, the unnecessary escalation. His office phone rang. Grant, he answered. Mr. Grant came a smooth, professional female voice. My name is Selena Grant, head of global security for Cole Dynamics. Do you have a moment to speak privately? Victor stiffened. How did you get this number? That's not important right now. What matters is that we have a mutual acquaintance in Nathaniel Cole. Victor glanced around his empty office, then lowered his voice. What is this about, Miss Okoro? It's about justice, Mr. Grant, and choices. Mr. Cole was impressed by your professionalism yesterday, despite the difficult position you were placed in. I was just doing my job. Yes, but the question is, whose job were you really doing? Following protocol or enabling discrimination? Victor's jaw tightened. That's unfair. I followed procedure. Perhaps, but you knew it was wrong. I can hear it in your voice even now. After a long silence, Victor spoke again. What does Mr. Cole want from me? Nothing you're not willing to give. Just truth. When the time comes. After the call ended, Victor sat motionless, staring at the security footage still frozen on his screen. In his 20 years at the airport, he'd seen countless incidents like this one, moments where procedure became a shield for prejudice. He'd always followed the rules, stayed in his lane. But for what? At a downtown San Francisco restaurant, Nathaniel met with a distinguished older woman whose silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Lillian Carter had been one of the first black female CEOs in the tech industry, breaking barriers decades before Nathaniel entered the scene. I saw the news, she said as they settled at their private table. Brings back memories. Nathaniel nodded. Some things never change, but some things do, Evelyn countered, studying him. 20 years ago, you would have had no recourse. Now you have resources, influence, power. I do, Nathaniel agreed, and I intend to use them. Evelyn sipped her wine thoughtfully. I taught you patience for a reason, Nathaniel. The long game always wins. I'm not being impulsive, aren't you? This feels personal. It is personal, Nathaniel acknowledged, but it's also bigger than me. Orion Air has systematically enabled discrimination while pretending to value diversity. They're rotten to the core, financially, ethically, operationally. And you're going to be what? Judge, jury, and executioner? Nathaniel's expression remained calm. No, I'm just going to create transparency. What happens after that is up to the market, the regulators, and the public. Evelyn studied him for a long moment. You've thought this through. You taught me well. She nodded slowly. Just remember what else I taught you. True power isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. I remember, Nathaniel assured her. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. As their dinner continued across the country, the Orion Air systems continued to deteriorate. Customers flooded social media with complaints about canceled flights, lost reservations, and multiple credit card charges. The hashtag Regulus Chaos began trending alongside Fly While Black. In the IT war room at Regulus headquarters, the director slammed his fist on the table. How is this possible? We've patched every vulnerability. Sir, a junior analyst spoke up hesitantly. I think I might know what's happening. All eyes turned to her. There's a pattern to the disruptions. They started right after the incident with Malcolm Reed. Coincidence, the director dismissed. Maybe not, the analyst persisted. Coal Dynamics created the backbone of our booking and scheduling systems 3 years ago. What if there's a backdoor we never knew about? A tense silence filled the room. That's impossible, the director finally said, but his voice lacked conviction. Our security team would have found it, unless it was designed not to be found until activated. At that moment, Selena Grant was briefing her team of cybersecurity experts from a secure location. Phase 2 begins now, she instructed. Focus on their internal communications. I want every email, every text message, every internal memo related to discriminatory practices or regulatory violations. One of her analysts looked up from his screen. We've already uncovered something interesting. Gregory Langston has a separate email server for communications he once kept off the official system. Leah's eyes narrowed. Can you access it? Already done. It's enlightening. Meanwhile, Jamal was finishing his shift when he overheard a conversation between two managers. They're looking for a scapegoat, one said in a hushed voice. Board's putting pressure on Charles. Who are they targeting? Security Supervisor Grant. They're saying he should have de-escalated with Cole instead of removing him. Jamal's heart raced as he pretended to organize pamphlets nearby, straining to hear more. That's bull, the second manager replied. Grant was just following protocol. Sandra's the one who created the whole mess. Doesn't matter. They need someone with authority to take the fall. Sandra's too easy a target. They'd be admitting direct discrimination. Better to frame it as a security. Overreaction. Jamal waited until they left before pulling out his phone to text Derek. They're planning to scapegoat Marcus Hale for the Cole incident. Can you confirm? Minutes later, Derek replied. Confirmed. Just saw the draft announcement. They're suspending him pending investigation. That night, as the media frenzy around OTS, Orion Air intensified. A simple message appeared simultaneously on the screens of every Regalis employee's computer. This is only the beginning. The message vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Regalis employees stunned and executives panicked. In the company's Atlanta headquarters, Gregory Langston paced his office, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care what it costs," he barked. "I want this contained now. Get me Adrian Black." Adrian Black was a name whispered in corporate circles. The fixer brought in when normal PR strategies failed. His specialty was crisis management through intimidation, leveraging connections across media, politics, and occasionally the darker corners of information gathering. 3 hours later, Ethan strode into Charles's office without knocking. A lean, immaculately dressed man with cold eyes and a reputation for ruthless efficiency. "This is worse than you described," were his first words, tossing a tablet onto Charles's desk. "Your stock is down 12% since opening. Social media is a bloodbath. And that message on your employees' computers? You've been hacked, Charles. Thoroughly." Charles slumped into his chair. "Can you fix it?" "I can manage it," Ethan corrected, "but it will require decisive action, no half measures." "Whatever it takes," Ethan nodded once. "I'll need complete authority over your communications team, access to all personnel files, and a dedicated security detail." "You have it. Just stop the bleeding." "First thing, we identify and neutralize internal threats. Anyone who might be sympathetic to Cole or tempted to leak information. You think we have a mole?" Ethan's smile was cold. Organizations always do, especially during crises. The next morning, Jamal arrived at work to find security personnel stationed throughout the terminal. As he approached the employee entrance, a guard stepped forward. "Andre Walker?" Jamal froze. "Yes? Come with me, please." He was led to a small conference room where Adrian Black waited, reviewing a file. "Mr. Barnes," Ethan said without looking up, "please sit." Jamal remained standing. "What is this about?" Ethan finally raised his eyes. "Your communications with Tyrell Morgan in IT, your interest in the Malcolm Reed incident, your access to sensitive employee discussions." Jamal's throat went dry. "I don't insult me by lying," Ethan cut him off. "We've reviewed your text messages, your calls, your movements through the terminal." He closed the file. "You have two options. Option 1, you're fired immediately for violating company confidentiality policies, blacklisted from the industry, and potentially face legal action for corporate espionage." Jamal's hands began to shake. "And option 2, you tell me everything you know about who's been contacting you regarding Malcolm Reed, and you continue your work here, now reporting directly to me." In a similar conference room across the terminal, Marcus Hale faced the same ultimatum from another of Ethan's team. Unlike Jamal, Victor had decades of experience keeping his expression neutral under pressure. "I've done nothing wrong," he stated evenly. "No." The woman across from him, Lisa Chen, according to her temporary badge, slid a printout toward him. "Your access card was used to review security footage of the Cole incident multiple times after hours. You received a call from Selena Grant, Cole's head of security, and your personnel file shows you filed 3 complaints about discriminatory security protocols in the past 2 years." Victor remained silent. "You're a liability, Mr. Grant," Lisa continued, "but you could be an asset instead. Tell us what Cole's people are planning." "I don't know anything about Mr. Cole's plans," Victor replied truthfully. "Then you're of no use to us." Across town in a sleek co-working space, Naomi Ellis, Chief Operating Officer of Regalis Airways, met with Selena Grant under the pretense of a personal day. This is extremely irregular, Helen said, her voice low despite the privacy. Of their meeting pod, these are irregular times, Leah replied calmly. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Helen straightened her jacket, a nervous habit from her early career days. At 52, she had navigated the treacherous waters of corporate America as one of few women in aviation leadership. She had compromised often, looked the other way sometimes, but she had her limits. I assume this is about Malcolm Reed, she said. It's about Regalis Airways, Leah corrected, and the rot at its core. You know what I'm talking about. Helen's expression remained carefully neutral. I'm the COO of this company, Miss Okoro. Why would I help you damage it? Because you're better than it, Leah answered simply. Because you've spent a decade trying to change Regalis from within, only to be blocked by Gregory Langston at every turn. Because you've reported safety violations that were buried, discrimination complaints that were ignored, and financial irregularities that magically disappeared from audits. Helen's eyes widened slightly. How could you possibly know about? We have our sources, Leah interrupted. The question is, when the storm hits, and it will hit, which side of history do you want to be on? Helen was silent for a long moment. What exactly are you asking of me? Nothing active. Just be prepared. When evidence of Whitmore's misconduct becomes public, people will look to you for leadership. Be ready to provide it. As Leah left their meeting, her secure phone buzzed with an update from her team. Banking records accessed. Confirmation on offshore accounts. Whitmore personally authorized transfers to shell companies in the Cayman Islands. At that same moment, Nathaniel was meeting with his mentor, Evelyn, again, this time in her office overlooking San Francisco Bay. It's all connected, Nathaniel explained, showing her documents on a secure tablet. The same banking group that denied my first business loan owns a significant share in Regalis Airways. The same board members who privately mocked my affirmative action MIT scholarship sit on Regalis's advisory board. Evelyn studied the connections. You've been tracking this for years. I track everything, Nathaniel replied simply. Information is power. I learned that lesson early. Evelyn handed back the tablet. What happened to that bright-eyed boy who wanted to use AI to predict food shortages and save lives? He grew up, Nathaniel said, his voice softer. He learned that to change the world, you need more than good intentions. You need leverage. And now you have it, Nathaniel nodded. Now I have it. Just be careful that in fighting monsters, you don't become one yourself. As Nathaniel left Evelyn's office, his phone rang with a call from Leah. We have a situation, she said without preamble. Ross is targeting our inside sources. Andre Walker and Marcus Hale are both being pressured. Expected, Nathaniel replied calmly. Activate countermeasures. Make sure they're protected. Already in progress. At Regalis headquarters, Adrian Black was briefing Gregory Langston on his progress. We've identified several potential leaks and are containing them, he reported. More importantly, we've compiled some interesting information on Malcolm Reed himself. Charles leaned forward eagerly. Something we can use? Possibly. A sexual harassment allegation from an ex-employee that was settled quietly 3 years ago? Perfect, Charles smirked. Leak it to the press? I wouldn't advise that yet, Ethan cautioned. We need to verify. No, Charles interrupted. I want it out there now. Let's see how Mr. Cole likes being on the defensive. Ethan hesitated but nodded. As you wish. Within hours, a thinly sourced story appeared on a fringe news site. Technology billionaire Malcolm Reed accused of sexual misconduct. The story barely had time to circulate before Leah's team intercepted it. What happened next shocked even the most seasoned media watchers. The news site suddenly published a retraction and an apology, along with leaked emails showing that Adrian Black had paid for the false story. Simultaneously, legitimate news outlets received documented evidence of Gregory Langston's offshore accounts, complete with transaction records and dates. CNN breaking news, Orion Air, CEO under investigation for financial irregularities. MSNBC, whistleblowers reveal culture of discrimination at Orion Air. Wall Street Journal, SEC launches probe into Orion Air, following leaked documents. Charles stared at the television in his office in horror as the stories broke, one after another. His phone rang. It was the board chairman. "What the hell is happening, Charles?" the chairman demanded. "It's Cole," Charles sputtered. "He's orchestrating this somehow." "Fix it," the chairman ordered, "or we will." Just as Charles hung up, his computer screen flickered, and a video call connected automatically. Malcolm Reed's face appeared, calm and composed. "Hello, Charles." Charles nearly jumped out of his chair. "How did you get on my secure line?" "There's nothing secure about Regala systems," Nathaniel replied evenly. "Not anymore. What do you want?" "Money, an apology." Nathaniel almost smiled. "I have more money than you'll ever have, Charles, and your apology would be meaningless." "Then what?" "Justice, accountability, change." Nathaniel leaned closer to the camera. "You're not just fighting me, Charles. You're fighting the future." As the call ended abruptly, Charles lunged for his phone to call Ethan, but the screen showed only one message. "We're not shutting down a flight. We're shutting down an empire." The elegant glass conference room at Coal Dynamics headquarters in San Francisco buzzed with quiet precision as Nathaniel's legal team assembled. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, the Golden Gate Bridge stood partially shrouded in morning fog, a fitting metaphor for the veiled battle about to unfold. "The formal letter of complaint has been delivered to Orion Air," said Rebecca Lawson, Nathaniel's chief legal counsel. Her tailored navy suit and no-nonsense demeanor reflected her reputation as one of the most feared litigators in corporate America. "We've accused them of racial discrimination, hostile customer environment, and violation of federal transportation equality statutes." Nathaniel nodded, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. "And their response?" "Their legal team is scrambling," Rebecca replied with the ghost of a smile. "They've requested a 48-hour extension to formulate their official response." "Granted," Nathaniel said, "the letter's merely a distraction anyway." Rebecca exchanged glances with Selena Grant, who stood by the window, her posture military straight. "Phase 2 is progressing exactly as planned," Leah reported. "I've assembled a team of 20 specialists, cybersecurity experts, former journalists, financial investigators. We're preparing for coordinated exposure on multiple fronts." Nathaniel rose from his chair and approached the smart wall where dozens of data points connected in a complex web. Orion Air corporate structure, leadership lines, financial holdings, and hidden connections. "Their empire is built on sand," he observed, "hollowed out by greed, held together by intimidation and political connections." "The SEC is already quietly investigating based on the initial information we've provided," Rebecca added, "but they're moving cautiously due to Whitmore's political connections." "Politics?" Nathaniel's voice carried a rare note of disdain. "The II, last refuge of the corrupt." He turned to face his team. This isn't just about one incident or one airline. This is about systems. Systems designed to exclude, to protect the powerful, to maintain hierarchies. Diane Preston isn't the disease. She's a symptom. Speaking of Sandra, Leah interjected, our investigation has uncovered 12 previous formal complaints against her for discriminatory treatment of passengers, all buried by Regalis HR. Nathaniel wasn't surprised. And the young gate agent, Maya Torres? She's being pressured to remain silent, Leah confirmed. Adrian Black has been circulating implied threats about her future employability if she speaks out. A muscle tightened in Nathaniel's jaw, a rare display of visible emotion. Ensure she's protected. Same for Jamal and Marcus Hale. As his team dispersed to execute their assignments, Nathaniel's phone buzzed with a text from Lillian Carter. Whitmore is mobilizing his political allies. Senator Caldwell called me asking questions about you. Be careful. Across the country at ISO, Regalis Airways headquarters. The board of directors had convened an emergency meeting. The atmosphere was tense, with raised voices echoing down the corridor outside the boardroom. This is spiraling out of control, argued Harold Briggs, one of the senior board members. We need to settle with Cole immediately. Issue a public apology and move on. Absolutely not, Gregory Langston countered, his face flushed with anger. We show weakness now, and we'll have every discrimination lawyer in America at our throats. This is a shakedown, pure and simple. Naomi Ellis studied the board members' faces, noting who seemed troubled by the situation versus those blindly loyal to Charles. As COO, she'd spent years watching Charles prioritize profits over people, but he'd always been careful to maintain plausible deniability. Now, with the company under scrutiny, fault lines were emerging. The stock has dropped 18% in 3 days, noted the CFO, Felix Turner. Institutional investors are getting nervous. We need to contain this. And we will, Charles insisted. Adrian Black has managed worse situations than this. Cole might have money in tech, but we have connections in Washington that he can't touch. Helen finally spoke up. And if the allegations about financial irregularities prove true, what then, Charles? A heavy silence fell over the room as Charles fixed her with an icy stare. Those allegations are fabricated, as you well know, Helen. I'm surprised you'd even suggest otherwise. Helen held his gaze. I'm merely considering all scenarios, as any responsible executive should. The tension was broken by Charles' assistant entering with an urgent note. As he read it, the color drained from his face. What is it? Asked William. Cole Dynamics just released a cryptic statement on social media, Charles said, his voice tight. Sometimes giants must fall, and it's already got over 50,000 shares. Meanwhile, Andre Walker sat in his small apartment, staring at his laptop screen. After his confrontation with Adrian Black, he'd called in sick, claiming food poisoning. He knew his job was effectively over. The question was what to do next. His phone rang with an unknown number. Hello, he answered cautiously. Andre Walker? A woman's voice responded. This is Selena Grant from Cole Dynamics. We need to talk. Jamal's heart raced. How did you get my number? That's not important right now. What matters is your safety. Adrian Black has placed you under surveillance. There's a black sedan parked across from your building. Jamal moved to the window and carefully peered through the blinds. Sure enough, a dark car with tinted windows was stationed with a clear view of his entrance. What do they want from me? I'm just an intern. You're a witness, Jamal. And in Adrian Black's world, witnesses are either controlled or neutralized. A chill ran down Jamal's spine. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying you have a choice to make, Leah replied. Stay silent and hope Ross loses interest, or stand up and help us expose the truth. Either way, we'll ensure your protection. Across town, Marcus Hale was clearing out his desk. After refusing to cooperate with Adrian Black, he'd been placed on administrative leave pending investigation, a corporate euphemism for, "You're finished." As he placed his service awards in a cardboard box, his secure personal phone, not his company device, vibrated with a text. Your car is waiting in the east parking lot. Black Tesla. Drive is trustworthy. Victor hesitated only briefly before grabbing his box and heading for the exit.